The Clark Winter Gala always smelled the same: polished cedar floors, cold champagne, and the kind of money that made everything look sterile instead of beautiful. If you stood still long enough, you could hear the chandelier hum above your head, vibrating under the weight of 200 tiny crystals that never got dusty because someone's job was to make sure dust never touched anything in this house. I stood in the center of the grand foyer, surrounded by guests draped in velvet and sequins, and I held a box that didn't fit in my hands or in my life. A white lacquered lid, a gold emblem of our family crest embossed on top, a satin ribbon tied with the kind of precision that says, "This isn't a gift, it's a performance." My cousin Ava stood in front of me, smiling like the world was a stage and humiliation was her favorite form of entertainment. "Open it, Evie," she said, her voice floating high and sharp, like fake excitement layered over venom. I should have known the moment I walked through the door and saw her waiting with that smile. The Clark family never presented gifts unless they doubled as knives. I pulled the ribbon. The room leaned in. Inside was a glossy brochure, cream background, rose gold lettering. Bellwood Refinement Retreat for Women Struggling with Emotional Stagnation, Communication Issues, and Chronic Independence. Under it, a voucher printed on thick cardstock. 12 sessions of femininity rehabilitation, prepaid, non-refundable. And under that, a note typed neatly, "For Evelyn, because healing is the first step toward being lovable." My vision didn't blur. My hands didn't shake. They'd done worse things to me before. A whisper rippled around the gala because humiliation is the closest thing to entertainment my family ever enjoyed. My mother, Camilla Clark, stood by the staircase rail in a gown that sparkled like frostbite, nodding approvingly like she just gifted me pearls instead of shame. "It's thoughtful, darling," she said loudly, making sure everyone heard. "We want the best for you." The best. That word tasted like metal. My father stood behind her, hands in his pockets, eyes indifferent. He didn't even pretend to hide his boredom. Charles Clark never looked at me unless he needed something, usually my brain, never my presence. I stared at the brochure. The woman on the front was smiling, holding a soft pink teacup. The expression was off, too bright, too polished. A smile not worn by someone healed, but someone trained. The kind my family preferred. Ava tossed her hair over her shoulder, the diamond clips catching the warm chandelier light. She enjoyed the attention. She always did. "I hope you're not offended," she added, touching my arm with a manicured hand. "We just want you to stop shutting us out. You know, your solo phase." Solo phase. Interesting word choice for someone who had no idea who I actually was or what my life looked like anymore. Guests watched me like I was an exhibit. The strange, unmarried Clark daughter. 31, independent, successful, a threat to the narrative. My throat felt tight, but not from sadness, from restraint. Every instinct in me wanted to fling the box into the fire burning in the marble hearth. Watch the pieces curl into ash. Watch their smiles falter. But I didn't, because tonight required precision. And revenge, real revenge, was always a slow art. I closed the box gently, as if I were handling something delicate instead of something designed to crush me. I held it at my side like an accessory I didn't order. "Thank you," I said. My voice didn't crack. My expression didn't slip. And that unsettled Ava more than if I'd screamed. She blinked, confused by my calm. And that was the moment I knew I was going to win tonight. The humiliation was supposed to be the appetizer. They had prepared a full course of insults for me. But they didn't realize I wasn't the same girl they pushed around years ago. The Evelyn they expected, the quiet one, the polite one, the one desperate for validation. That girl no longer existed. I'd buried her 18 months ago. Tonight, I wasn't here to be accepted. I was here to bury something else. The gala moved toward the banquet hall like a tide of diamonds and tailored suits. I walked behind them, the box pressed against my ribs, feeling heavier with every step. Guests murmured about stocks and philanthropy and vacations to Santorini, but their eyes slid toward me between conversations, curious, pitying, entertained. A moving spectacle. Camilla walked at the front like she was leading a royal procession, her hair in an immaculate French twist, her spine straightened by decades of practiced elegance. Ava clung to her arm, laughing loudly at something no one said. My father walked beside them, nodding to business partners, talking mergers and expansions. He didn't look back at me once. That was fine. He'd look soon enough. A shifting memory hovered at the edge of my mind. The night I invited them to my award ceremony 18 months ago. I could still feel the crisp edge of the envelopes I hand-addressed. The care I took selecting the paper. The hope that bloomed in me when I sent them. Hope is such a dangerous thing in the wrong family. I had expected at least one reply. But the night came, the hall filled. I received the award, one of the biggest forensic accounting recognitions in the Midwest. No parents, no family, no congratulations. Afterward, I found out Ava had installed email filters in my mother's inbox. The invitations were deleted before Camilla ever saw them. A little digital erasure. A little gaslighting. A little sabotage hidden behind the pristine smile of a perfect Clark daughter. And when I confronted them, they didn't apologize. They simply pretended the invitation never existed. They were experts at rewriting history as long as it protected Ava's shine and my father's image. I thought I had escaped it all when I moved to Chicago, built my own life, found love where I didn't expect it, stability where I didn't look for it. But blood ties have sharp teeth. They bite even when you walk away. That's why I came tonight. Not because I wanted reconciliation, but because exposure was overdue. And truths rot when they sit unspoken. We reached the dining hall. A long table stretched beneath 3 chandeliers, the kind that made you feel like you were about to sign a treaty or declare war. I took my seat at the far left, my designated position, always distant enough to be dismissed, close enough to be blamed. Camilla raised her glass and tapped the crystal. The room stilled. "I want to welcome you all," she said, smiling with her teeth but not her eyes. "This year has been extraordinary for our family." Ava straightened proudly beside her. There it was, the setup. I could predict every beat. "Ava has taken on a new leadership role in Clark Investment Group," Camilla continued. "We couldn't be more proud of her growth and her grace." Grace. She loved that word. Used it often enough to weaponize it. She didn't look at me once. Forks clinked. Compliments flowed toward Ava like champagne from an endless bottle. She soaked it in, her cheeks glowing under the chandelier light. Then Camilla turned her head, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "And then there's Evelyn," she said with a sigh sweet enough to rot. "We worry about her sometimes." A soft murmur passed around the table. Concern disguised as gossip disguised as pity. "Working late nights," Camilla continued. "Keeping to herself, not bringing anyone home. We're afraid she's losing touch with emotional connection." I stayed still. Ava leaned forward, voice dripping with sincerity so fake it glistened. "That's why we gave her the retreat package," she said. "She needs it." I stared at them, at the table, at the polished surface reflecting the chandelier above. They had no idea what was coming, no idea what I knew, what I had prepared, who I had become when they weren't watching. "Evelyn, darling," Camilla said, her tone as delicate as a sharpened blade, "don't you ever want companionship? Don't you ever want someone to share your life with?" A pause, a room waiting, a stage set. I lifted my eyes slowly. Deliberately, every movement calculated. "I'm not alone." Camilla blinked. Ava's smile cracked. My father snapped his attention toward me with the first hint of interest he'd shown all evening. "Excuse me," he said. "I'm not alone," I repeated. "I'm married." Silence rang through the hall, thick and electric. Ava laughed, a bright, brittle sound that echoed off the high ceilings. "Married," she scoffed. "To who? Your spreadsheets?" Laughter bloomed around her like a poisonous flower. I didn't flinch. Camilla shook her head, her disappointment polished to perfection. "Evelyn, lying is unbecoming," she said. "Don't embarrass yourself further." My father's jaw tightened. "Enough," he snapped. "Tell the truth." I looked between them, and for the first time in my life, they were the ones unprepared. My hands rested calmly on the table, the retreat box still beside my plate. I ran my thumb along its smooth edge. "Why would I lie?" I asked quietly. Ava scoffed again, but now there was a tremor beneath it, a flicker of uncertainty. "You would lie because you crave attention," she hissed. "Because you hate that tonight isn't about you." "No," I said softly. "I would lie if I were like you." Ava's cheeks flushed, but I didn't let her speak. I didn't need to raise my voice to silence the room. My marriage is real, I said. And since none of you responded to the wedding invitations, I assume Ava blocked them. Ava's head jerked back like she'd been slapped. Her mother gasped. Some guests even leaned in like a scandal was the best dessert. My father scowled. What invitations? The ones I sent 6 months ago. Camilla's voice rose a pitch. We never received. You did, I interrupted. Ava filtered them. Ava laughed again, but the sound didn't reach her eyes. That's insane. Is it? I asked. I reached into my clutch and pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over one word, the message I had drafted an hour before arriving. Now the word glowed. I pressed send. 3 seconds passed. Then the dining room lights flickered once. Twice. The wall-mounted screens around the hall went black. Guests murmured, startled. Camilla stiffened. What is happening? I rested my elbows on the table, fingers laced. You forgot, I said gently, that I designed the smart system in this house before I moved to Chicago. My father looked confused. Designed what? The lighting grid, the surveillance network, the digital interface, the entire security infrastructure wired under your name, authorized under mine. The screens flashed white, then blue. A cursor moved across the biggest screen. But no one in the room was holding a remote. A woman at the far end whispered, Is someone controlling it? I smiled for the first time that night. Yes, I said. My husband. It was the calmest sentence I'd ever spoken. And the most devastating. Ava shot up from her chair. This is violation. No. My voice sliced clean through hers. I am the system administrator. Every camera, every login, every access point is under my authorization. Marcus is simply assisting from our home office. Camilla's hand trembled around her wine glass. Marcus, she echoed faintly. My husband, I said. The cursor clicked open a folder labeled, For tonight. File after file appeared. Email logs, security footage, internal filters, the digital skeleton of their deceit. Ava's face drained of color. Her hands curled around the edge of the table like she needed something to anchor her. You're bluffing, she whispered. I tilted my head. The cursor opened a window. A screenshot filled the screen, Camilla's inbox settings. A filter highlighted in red. If subject contains Evelyn or wedding, delete permanently. Camilla paled. Her jaw dropped. This isn't. The cursor clicked again. Security footage popped up. Ava in leggings and a silk robe opening a FedEx envelope. My invitation inside. She skimmed it, smirked, and dropped it straight into the garbage bin. Gasps filled the room. A few guests even covered their mouths. Ava's voice broke. That's out of context. No, I said, my voice steady. It's exactly the context. The footage played in silence. Her betrayal displayed in perfect HD. My father's face stiffened. Camilla's shoulders shook. Ava stared at me, eyes wide, pupils blown. You planned this, she whispered. I looked her in the eyes for the first time that night. No, Ava. I built this. The room fell into a suffocating stillness. A stillness that belonged to truth finally breaking through the surface after years of being buried under performance and manipulation. And for the first time in my life, the Clark family looked small. Camilla sagged in her chair. My father reached for his drink with a shaky hand. Ava sat frozen, fragile and exposed under the harsh chandelier light. I leaned back in my seat, exhaling slowly. My heart wasn't racing. My palms weren't sweating. I felt free. The chains that had been wrapped around me since childhood were melting, link by link. And they didn't even realize the reveal wasn't complete yet, because this wasn't the climax. This was only the opening act. The dining room felt too bright, as if the chandeliers were exposing things the family spent decades burying under good lighting and better lies. The footage of Ava discarding my wedding invitation still lingered on the screen, paused on the frame where she tossed it into the bin with the casual ease of someone throwing away junk mail. Ava had always been careless, but tonight her carelessness had consequences she never prepared for. Her mouth trembled as she stared at the evidence. I watched her swallow hard, one of those small, involuntary movements a person makes when they suddenly understand the ground beneath them is not solid. You don't get to do this, Ava whispered, voice quivering like stretched glass. Her words shattered uselessly in the space between us. I already did, I said. The cursor moved again, slow, deliberate, almost theatrical, and opened another file. Email logs. A timeline. A sequence of events that painted the truth with numbers and dates. At 9:04 a.m., invitation delivered. At 9:07 a.m., Ava opens Camilla's email. At 9:09 a.m., filter installed. At 9:12 a.m., my wedding invitation moved to deleted items. At 9:13 a.m., permanently erased. Ava's actions were catalogued with the precision of a crime scene. My father pushed back from the table, the wheels of his chair scraping sharply against the polished hardwood. His face was flushed, but not with shame. Clark men were incapable of it. His expression was fury, misdirected and wild. This means nothing, he barked. Filters can be accidental, footage can be misinterpreted, you're blowing this out of proportion. I turned slowly to face him. Dad, I said quietly, if it were accidental, she would have come to the ceremony. She would have apologized. She wouldn't have lied for 6 months. He stiffened, his eyes darting toward his business partner, toward the guests, toward anyone who might be thinking less of him. The cracks were forming in real time. The image of the perfect Clark family was splintering. Camilla drew in a sharp breath, almost a sob. Ava, sweetheart, tell me this isn't true. Ava blinked at her like a child caught with stolen candy. I didn't want you two traveling to such a modest venue, she said weakly. You hate rustic places, Mom. I was saving you from an unpleasant experience. Saving us? Camilla's voice broke. From your sister's wedding? Ava flinched. She hadn't expected her mother to turn on her, not even now. I leaned back in my chair, clasping my hands in my lap. There was no satisfaction in watching them panic. No triumph in seeing Ava pale. Revenge wasn't sweet. It was clean, cold, surgical, but I didn't look away. I didn't come here to embarrass you, I said, though that wasn't entirely true. I came here to stop pretending. My father slammed his fist on the table, rattling the silverware. You should be grateful, he hissed. We supported you. You supported me. I repeated the words slowly, tasting them. Dad, I paid off your property tax debt last year. He froze. Murmurs swept the table. My voice remained calm, steady, almost gentle. And the year before that, the $82,000 your company audit flagged because of unfiled expenses. I cleared that too. My father's face turned a violent red. You ungrateful. Don't, I said sharply. Don't rewrite the story, not tonight. He opened his mouth to speak but found no words. Silence drifted over him like a burial cloth. The cursor moved again. Another file opened. This one wasn't family sabotage. This one was purely mine. A photograph filled the screen, a high-resolution shot of my wedding day. I stood in a champagne silk dress, smiling at the man beside me. Marcus, his hand on mine. The sun setting behind us. Happiness so real, so warm, that for a moment even the guests at this disastrous gala stared in stunned silence. Camilla blinked rapidly. Who is that? My husband, I said simply. A few guests gasped quietly. Ava choked on her own breath. The photo shifted to the next one, our vows, our rings, our first dance. Each image a blade slicing through the excuses my family clung to. I watched the pain hit them slowly, like light creeping beneath a tightly closed door. And in that moment, I understood something with absolute clarity. They hadn't forgotten my wedding. They erased it, not by accident, not out of concern, but because the narrative of Evelyn, the invisible, inconvenient daughter, needed to stay intact. No matter the cost. It wasn't disappointment that washed over me then. It wasn't anger. It was something colder, something final. Because now, they were seeing the truth. And they realized they weren't in control anymore. For a moment, the room was frozen in shock. A strange, breathless quiet in a house that had always been too loud with ego and judgment. The screen flickered once more, showing a video clip Marcus had cued. It wasn't of my family. It was of us, me and Marcus, laughing in our tiny Chicago kitchen. His arms wrapped around me as he placed flour on my nose, me swatting him playfully. The two of us dancing barefoot on the cold tiles. There was nothing grand about it, nothing glamorous, but it was real, and it was everything my family never understood. Ava's lips parted in confusion, frustration, disbelief. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why didn't you tell me you were married?" I let that question sit there, let her feel it. Then I answered. "I did." Her eyebrows knit together. "No, you didn't." "I sent you 8 messages the week after the wedding," I said, my tone calm and factual. "You blocked my number." Camilla gasped. Ava's face went slack. My father looked like someone had hit him with something heavy. "And when I emailed you the photos," I said, my eyes never leaving Ava's, "you created another filter." The cursor shifted again, highlighting the folder. Automated delete rules, device. Ava's iPhone, a list of keywords. Wedding Evelyn ceremony photos marriage Marcus Vance. Ava swallowed. Hard. Her hands trembled in her lap. "Why?" Camilla whispered, looking at Ava the way one looks at a stranger who suddenly speaks a language you don't recognize. Ava didn't have an answer, or she didn't want to voice it, so I gave it to her. "Because you wanted all the attention for your engagement," I said. "My wedding would have overshadowed yours that month. You couldn't allow that." The truth hit the table with the weight of a wrecking ball. Ava shook her head violently, strands of hair coming loose. No, this is being twisted, Evelyn. You always twist everything." Her voice wavered, rising like a trapped animal's panicked cry. But this time, no one moved to soothe her. Not even Camilla. The room had shifted. The golden daughter was losing her shine. My father raised his voice again, but it lacked the authority he once wielded so effortlessly. "This is a personal matter. We should handle this privately." I cut him off. "No," I said quietly. "You have only handled things privately when it benefited you. When it hurt me, you did it publicly. Tonight, I'm simply returning the favor." The cursor clicked open another document, a financial ledger. My father stiffened instantly. "What is this?" he demanded. "The unpaid debts," I replied. "The ones you never acknowledged." Numbers filled the screen, columns of transactions. Payments under my name but used for Clark Investment Group's benefit. Quiet debts, hidden risks. 47 separate transactions marked confidential. Camilla covered her mouth. You made Evelyn pay your business deficits." My father's face hardened. "She's my daughter. She owes." "No," I said. "I owe you nothing." A guest near the center of the table whispered something to his wife. Another quietly stood and excused himself. Clark's reputation was disintegrating in real time. Ava grabbed onto the table as if the wood itself could save her sinking image. "You're destroying this family," she hissed. "Do you want to ruin us? Do you want people to hate us? You're vindictive." I laughed softly, a sound that didn't match the cold calm in my chest. "No, Ava, I don't need to ruin you. I just need to reveal the truth. You did the rest." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Someone dropped a fork. Glass clinked. The noise echoed. Camilla sank slowly into her chair, her body folding in on itself. Charles grabbed his glass, hand shaking. And in that moment, I saw him, not as the towering, indestructible patriarch, but as a man whose empire was built on fragile ego. The cursor clicked again. A final file opened. Certificate of marriage. Evelyn Clark and Marcus hail my name beside his. The official seal. The signature. Proof. Undeniable, irrefutable. The room exhaled in shock. I stood slowly, pushing my chair back with a soft scrape. The sound felt symbolic, like a page turning. I lifted the retreat box Ava had given me earlier and placed it gently back on the table. "You wanted me to learn how to be lovable," I said softly. "But I already am. Just not by the people in this room." A hush swept over the crowd. Ava stared at me, her eyes glassy, her breath uneven. Camilla whispered, "Evelyn, please," but it was too late, far too late. I walked toward the door, my heels tapping rhythmically against the polished floor. No one tried to stop me, not anymore. Not when their carefully crafted world was crumbling like brittle sugar glass. Halfway to the foyer, I felt a presence behind me. A cold hand gripped my wrist. Ava, her fingers shook violently as she held on to me. "Don't go," she whispered. "Please, we can fix this." I turned slowly. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her mouth trembled. For the first time in our lives, she wasn't composed. She was human, breaking. "Why?" I whispered back. "Why should I stay?" Ava's lips parted, but no sound came. She had no answer. She never did when the spotlight wasn't flattering. I gently removed my wrist from her grip. "I didn't destroy you," I said. "You destroyed yourself when you decided I didn't matter." Her breath hitched. I left her standing there in the middle of the dining hall, surrounded by chandeliers, guests, and the wreckage of her perfect world. The foyer was quiet when I stepped into it. Too quiet. Like the calm after a storm that drowned an entire coastline. I reached the front door, opened it. Cold air rushed in, crisp and liberating, biting my skin in a way that felt like freedom. I stepped onto the marble steps. My phone buzzed. "Marcus, everything okay?" he texted. I typed back, "It is now," then added, "Coming home." He replied in seconds, "Waiting for you." For the first time since entering this house, warmth bloomed in my chest. Soft, steady, real. I took one last look at the mansion, a place that raised me, shaped me, and tried to break me. Then I walked down the steps into the night. Cars hummed on the distant road. Snow fell lightly, sticking to my hair and shoulders like tiny diamonds. Streetlights glowed through the flurries, turning the cold world golden. I breathed in, letting my lungs fill with air that wasn't laced with judgment. Behind me, I heard the front door slam open. A voice called my name. I didn't turn back. Every step forward felt like a lifetime of weight slipping from my shoulders. I walked toward the waiting rideshare, its headlights glowing through the snow. The driver nodded as I approached, opening the back door. "Miss Clark?" he asked. I shook my head. "No," I said quietly. "My name is Evelyn Hale." It felt like reclaiming something that had been stolen. A new story, a clean chapter, a life with no strings attached to ghosts. As the car pulled away, I didn't look back again. The Clark mansion faded into the storm, a monument of cold marble, dim lights, and empty values. Ahead of me was Chicago, my apartment, my husband, my real life. The life I chose, the one they couldn't erase, the one they would never touch again. The snow had melted into gray slush by the time I returned to Chicago. City noise replaced the hollow quiet of the Clark estate, cars honking, people shouting across intersections, the comforting chaos of a place too busy to notice your healing. I hadn't realized how much I needed that noise until it wrapped around me like a blanket I didn't know I was missing. Marcus was waiting for me at the train station, leaning against a pillar with his hands in his coat pockets. He wasn't dramatic, not one of those men who sprinted across platforms with tears in their eyes. He just looked at me, really looked, and I felt something in me unclench. "You made it," he said, stepping forward. "I did." He took my bag from my shoulder, then my hand, intertwining his fingers with mine the way he always did. Quietly, effortlessly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Was it bad?" he asked as we walked toward the exit. I didn't answer. Because where would I even begin? With the box, with the filters, with Ava's face when her world cracked, with the realization that my parents had built a home where I was expected to shrink until I disappeared. Instead, I said softly, "It's over." Marcus looked at me in that perceptive way he had, as if he were reading the things I wasn't ready to say out loud yet. He squeezed my hand. "Good," he murmured. "Let's go home." Our apartment smelled like roasted garlic and tomato basil soup, exactly what he makes when he knows I'm holding myself together with thin thread and sheer stubbornness. The lights were warm, the air humid from the simmering pot on the stove, and the soft music coming from the living room wrapped itself around me like a different kind of memory. One that didn't hurt. I sat down on the couch and kicked off my boots. Marcus brought me a bowl of soup and sat beside me. "Eat," he said. I did. Slowly, quietly, he didn't rush me. He didn't fill the silence with empty words or force a conversation I wasn't ready for. He just sat with me, his knee against mine, his presence grounding. Halfway through the bowl, I whispered, "I'm tired." Marcus set his bowl aside and pulled me against him. I laid my head on his shoulder, listening to his heartbeat, steady, unfaltering. "You don't have to go back," he said. "I'm not." He nodded like he already knew. We stayed like that, wrapped in the quiet hum of our small Chicago apartment until I finally felt my body releasing the tension it had been carrying for decades. But peace, I'd learn, isn't always a stable thing. Sometimes the past knocks. Sometimes it arrives in a rectangular cardboard package. On the third morning after the gala, a FedEx truck pulled up outside. I watched from the window above our kitchen sink, as the driver placed a flat envelope on our doormat and walked away. My stomach tightened. Marcus saw my expression as he walked in with 2 mugs of coffee. "You expecting something?" I shook my head. We stared at the package for a moment as if it were a snake coiled under the welcome mat. Then I opened the door, retrieved it, and brought it to the table. No return name, no sender address. Just my name, written in my father's careful, architect's handwriting. My breath caught, not because I wanted to open it, but because I didn't want to feel anything. Not anger, not hope, not grief. But my hands trembled when I tore the seal. Inside, a check for $50,000 and a typed note on my father's business letterhead. "I apologize for the misunderstanding. Please keep this quiet." I stared at the paper. That was it. That was all they had to offer for decades of silence, manipulation, and isolation. Money, hush money. Marcus watched my face. "He really thought that would fix it," he said. A laugh slipped from my lips, sharp, humorless. "Of course he did. Money is how he loves. Money is how he apologizes. Money is how he buys loyalty, forgiveness, and silence." I held the check between my fingers. Then I tore it. Once, twice, 4 times, 8. Marcus didn't stop me. He only asked, "Want me to take a picture for you?" I smiled faintly and handed him my phone. The pieces lay scattered on the counter like confetti from a celebration I didn't attend. I typed a message into the Clark family group chat, one they never removed me from because they assumed I'd always orbit their world. "I don't sell my silence. I gift it to you as a parting favor. Do not contact me again." I pressed send. It showed delivered, then read. Someone started typing. Stopped. Typed again. I didn't wait to see the response. I left the chat. Left their world. For the first time in my life, permanence didn't scare me. It soothed me. Seattle air had a particular smell in winter, rain and cedar, and something clean that tasted like possibilities. We flew out 2 days after Christmas to spend New Year's with Marcus's family, who had never judged me for being quiet, never prodded me for being different, never asked me to perform. His mother hugged me so tightly when we arrived that I felt something in my chest give way, some old, rusted hinge popping loose. "You look thin," she scolded gently. "Come inside, sweetheart. There's pot roast." Love without performance. Warmth without strings. I almost didn't know how to hold it. Marcus's family buzzed around the living room in a comfortable chaos. His niece drawing with crayons on the carpet, his brother arguing with a TV, his father snoring slightly on the recliner. Their home felt lived in, loved in, a place where imperfections weren't hidden but embraced. I sat between Marcus's sisters on the couch as they took turns braiding tiny strands of my hair into loose waves, just for fun. Something no one had done for me since I was a child. "Is Evelyn okay with this?" one sister asked. Marcus leaned over the back of the couch with a smirk. "She could kill you with forensic math if she wanted to, but otherwise, yeah, she's good." I threw a pillow at him. He caught it, kissed the top of my head, and walked away smiling. Later, when the countdown approached, Marcus tugged my hand. "Come outside with me." The porch overlooked the Space Needle, glowing through the misty rain. Fireworks started early in a golden burst, painting the clouds with streaks of light. Marcus slipped his arm around my waist. "You've been quiet tonight," he said softly. "I'm thinking." "About them?" I hesitated. "No," I said truthfully. "About myself." He pulled me closer. "Do you regret anything?" he asked. I exhaled a long, slow breath, watching it curl into the cold air. I thought about the gala, the footage, the confessions. The look on Ava's face. My father's desperation, my mother's silence. Then I thought about our Chicago apartment. The soup, the quiet mornings, the laughter, the life we built from scratch. Finally, I thought about this moment, his warmth, his steadiness, the way he held me like I was something worth protecting. "No," I whispered. "I don't regret cutting them off. I regret staying as long as I did." Marcus kissed my temple. "Then let's make a promise," he murmured. "No more rooms where you have to shrink." I turned to face him fully. "No more rooms where I'm invisible," I echoed. He smiled soft, slow, the kind of smile that made my heart flip in the most infuriating way. "Good," he said, "because I need you exactly as you are." We fell quiet again as the fireworks intensified, illuminating the sky in brilliant color. From inside, his family shouted the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7. Marcus lifted my chin. 6, 5, 4. His eyes held mine. 3, 2, 1. He kissed me. Not the soft, shy kind of kiss we gave each other when we first met. This one was grounding, certain, a kiss that said, we made it. We're free. We're home. Fireworks exploded overhead. His family cheered behind us. The sky lit up with silver and gold, streaks of blue and red bursting in every direction. I leaned against him, watching the sky burn with celebration. I cleared the weeds, I whispered. I burned out the rot. He squeezed my hand. And now, he asked. I looked out over the glowing city, rain-soaked, imperfect, beautiful. Now, I said, I'm finally growing something real. And for the first time in 31 years, I knew I wasn't the discarded daughter. I wasn't the forgotten one. I wasn't the shadow of a golden child. I was Evelyn Hale, a woman who built her own life, her own love, her own freedom. And in the light of a new year, with fireworks sparkling like rebirth across the sky, I let the past go, for good.